Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is the iConis podcast. I'm Barry 3D, and today we are talking about the screamer, the dreamer, the man you know, because women love an accent, I guess, the one and only Banshee. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. Don't let the show be a secret. I'm Barry 3D from the iConis podcast, and we are going to get down to the one and only Banshee. We've been talking about other characters, because I'm talking for half a rod, other characters, from the X-Men. So I've covered Nightcrawler, we've covered Wolverine, we've covered Cyclops. And now we're going to talk about Banshee. Why? Because he doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. And this is what I mean. So Banshee's character first came about in X-Men issue number 28 back in January of 1967. The character is that old. He was created by Roy Thomas and Warner Roth. Those are the two people that created the character. And when he was first made, they wanted to base him off the mythical Banshee, sirens, creatures we hear about in mythology. And the character was supposed to be female. But Stan Lee came in and said, it'd be kind of weird that he's an X-Men villain and the X-Men are beating up on a woman. I don't like the message that is sending. Can we just change him to a man? And they said, okay, fine. They changed him to a man. And then we got, Banshee as we know him today. And that is Sean Cassidy. So Sean Cassidy was born into money, because his parents own a keep over in Ireland, right? Cassidy Keep. So he's got money. He was born to money. And, we don't know too much about him. He came in there, in issue number 28. You barely see him flying. And then he even says that, oh my gosh, I'm flying so fast that nobody can see me. Let's go back a little bit. So Sean Cassidy, the name should sound familiar, right? Because his cousin is Tom Cassidy, or Black Tom Cassidy, who works with the Juggernaut, which is the stepbrother of Charles Xavier, who doesn't like him. Civil War, two brothers on one side, dude on the other. Okay, you know what I mean. And this is where the ideologies start to clash. Now, before that, we also know that Sean was also part of Interpol. And he's about 10 years older than most of the X-Men on the team. So in issue number 28, he shows up and he's got a little bit of, in general look, the costume's the same thing. He's got the extra wings underneath his arms to help him, stabilize his flight and so forth like that. And he has made live appearances. We've seen him in X-Men First Class. We've seen, him, voiced on the animated series. And back in 1996, he was part of, Generation X, that live action TV movie that went there. And he was there as a headmaster along with Emma Frost. I know the 90s were crazy. So now he's older. We never know, or I never knew, what was his younger life like? We know about Cyclops when he was younger. We know about Nightcrawler when he was younger. Same thing with Colossus. Wolverine never seemed to be young. And of course, we only got Wolverine Origins a few years ago, but that he was the Enigma. Great. So we know about most of the X-Men in general when they were younger and how they came into their powers and how that played out. But we never hear Sean talk about his powers. We never talk, like when he hit puberty, how did he find out about his sonic scream? And this scream is epic. So as I said, he made his first appearance. He had a little headband on. That headband was a bomb. So he started, he was working with Interpol. He had his wife. They had a kid, but he didn't know that his wife had a kid or she was even pregnant because he was on an undercover mission for Interpol. That was his specialty. He was working undercover mission. So he was radio silent for months on end, trying to crack whatever organization it was for Interpol. His wife had a baby and then she died as not a car accident, but it was just, fatal shooting. She had nothing to do with his job. She just got killed. The baby is born. He doesn't know. He never knew. For years, he never knew. He didn't even know she was pregnant, I imagine, at this point. So when he comes back and finds out what happened to her, it's just kind of, okay. And he kind of obviously he had to have his mourning period, go through his despair. And then he gets approached to join this group called Factor 3. And Factor 3, he's like, okay, he's trying to figure out what they're about. And then he finds out they're really a criminal organization. And then he doesn't want to be a part of them, but then they slap a bomb on his head. It looked like a headband. And they forced him to do these crimes that he didn't want to be a part of. And that's where he makes his first appearance fighting the X-Men. Okay. Now, with his sonic scream, it's not just a scream. It's a scream. So with his power, let's say sonic scream for the, make it a lot easier. So with his sonic scream, he's able to match frequencies. He's able to shatter walls. He's able to use it as radar. He's able to use it as make a protective shield around himself. He's able to fly and fly at supersonic speed, like pretty much like the speed of sound. Like This is amazing. Like, it reminds me a lot of Black Bolt, but as a mutant. And there's not many characters that have that sonic scream power at the time, so it was unique. Also, we don't know how he discovered his powers. So there's no tale of when he hit puberty, when his powers first developed. How did he learn that he can fly? Because literally, you got to scream to fly. So did he jump off a building? Was he thrown off a building and started screaming and then realized he can float and hover and then fly? And that had to be either from his childhood or his Interpol days working as an undercover agent taking on these dangerous missions. That there's a whole block of Banshee that we don't know, but would be great storytelling, and I think we should know. So Marvel, stop holding out on us there, Marvel. Stop holding out on us. Now, and, you know, as Banshee was going on, he was there for the whole Dark Phoenix saga. He was there for all of that stuff back and forth non-stop. And then unfortunately he lost his powers. It was X-Men issue number 119. So back in March of 1979, he was, you know, they're all in Japan. So this is now coming back off the kind of the Dark Phoenix tale, so to speak. They're all in Japan and they're fighting this criminal, obviously a villain who wants to destroy Japan. And at this time, he's now re-teamed up with Sunfire because Sunfire left the X-Men way before this. Sunfire needs some help to deal with it. Of course, Sunfire is very arrogant, so he kind of begrudgingly takes on their help. And the villain's about to blow up a bomb, or not a bomb, but use this device that would turn around and destroy Japan. And the only way to contain it was through sound. So Banshee had to unleash his full power to counteract the vibrations to stop it from expanding and destroying Japan. He succeeded, but lost his voice because his vocal cords were damaged at this point. Now, I like to think also that Banshee was a smoker. Every time you see Banshee outside of costume or even in costume, he had his pipe on. He was always smoking. And unlike Wolverine, he doesn't have a healing factor. So if there's no healing factor, there's got to be a little bit of damage to the vocal cords. I think they've kind of mentioned it a couple of times and he just kind of, dismissed it. He liked this pipe. Okay. Now, if he didn't smoke, would his powers even be more? Would his vocal cords have been stronger? Unknown questions. And then as we go on, yes, he did have a reunion with his grown daughter at that point. Xavier found out about the daughter, got the two of them reunited, gave him a moment alone, and it was a joyous, happy moment, which is very rare in Marvel or comic books that, you know, someone has a happy moment because usually the next page it's like, they're a villain. But no, it was a happy moment. It was a family reunited right away. And I think back to the original creators, she too had powers very similar to her dad, and she went by the name Siren. And she was on that team Generation X. She didn't go with the New Mutants. She was on Generation X. And then, you know, real quick, Siren in the future, you know, as time goes on, she starts dating Jamie Maddox, Multiple Man. And those two have a child together. So now we're seeing how the bloodline plays out. Now, we know that Black Tom Cassidy was the one that raised Teresa, which is Sean Cassidy's daughter. So Black Tom was raising his cousin's daughter because he knew who the father was. And as as bad as he is, he's more of a mercenary. And when things came about and he got captured, he turned around and he gave the information saying, hey, by the way, Sean, I know we're blood. I know we're cousins. You're a cop. I'm a criminal. It's almost like Lupe and the inspector around the world stopping each other. By the way, here's your daughter. So the family ties are there. Sean comes from money. They both do. Sean has a keep. Do you got a keep? I don't got a keep. I wish I had a keep. And we don't know about his early life, about all that, but of course, he takes on a mentor role when he loses his powers. He does find love again with Moira McTaggart and he moves to Murrow Island. And he's very happy to live a nice, quiet life outside of the X-Men instead of going all over the world in space and dealing with everything they're dealing with. So that's cool. And I'm happy for him. I mean, of course, there's more adventurous past then, but I would like to know more about his past, about his Interpol. I think he should have used some of his connections with the X-Men to help them deal with certain cases and be proactive. I think he would have been a better fit, not so much as a mentor with Generation X, but more working with X-Force, trying to use his contacts in Interpol to offshoot or offset certain things. I think that's a big story that's missing. Period. Got it. All right. Now with his daughter and everyone else around there and bringing that whole family dynamic, that is interesting. And I think it would have been cool to see some of his previous adventures, chasing down his cousin, chasing down Juggernaut. And then let's get into it. I don't know anything about him growing up. How did his powers develop? How did he learn you can fly? Like, did he fall off the edge of the keep and started screaming and then realized he's floating and like, oh my gosh, what else can I do? Don't know. These are unanswered questions, but I think if you give a good writer something like this, we can get a good story with like Banshee. And to the point, Banshee's gone like a stolar arc from Interpol agent, older, mentor, father, potential grandfather, family drama and issues, past organizations coming back for revenge. And at one point he was even, one of the, with Apocalypse, right? One of his, not Angel of Death, but, Riders of Apocalypse. So we need more. That's all I got to say. That's it. That's all. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. Don't let the show be a secret. And big shout out to Jason, Jaybird Digital Arts, for the cool template. I can't do the echo because Rod's not here. And remember, this whole world was started by a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. Ah!